This video is going to be my somewhat delayed reaction to the Baltimore Ravens' 26-24 loss to the Steelers, one that I think is really a perfect microcosm of this season, along multiple data points. In addition, I think it kind of harkens back to some of the decisions that have been made by John Harbaugh, Eric DeCosta the last 2 or 3 years. The missed field goal by a rookie, Tyler Loop, it just really puts a cap on a disappointing 2025 that I think just all flows back to John Harbaugh not having a good overall plan for multiple positions from a player standpoint, but also from a coaching perspective. And I'm not just talking about 2025. I'm referring to the offseason between 2024 and 2025, and even our decisions leading up to 2024. The decision to hire Zach Orr, and then the unwillingness, to admit or adjust off of any of those mistakes that are, of a similar manner. I mean Harbaugh's mistakes, to be honest. Tyler Loop is the guy who obviously missed a very makeable field goal, one that we would have to consider easy to convert in practice or a regular season situation, right, where you're up 10 or something like that. Blame Loop for sure. You have to convert that kick, and then you can move on. But here in Pittsburgh, the margin for error was smaller than it needed to be. In fact, it was almost zero in the second half. I do think it's interesting. Someone, I can't remember who, posted on Twitter a stat of rookie kickers and field goals in the final 10 seconds of a game where they're already tied versus when they're down 1 or 2 or even 3. In this case, it was, make and win and host a home playoff game, or you miss and the season's over. The shame of it is that Lamar had some ridiculous plays to get us ahead twice in the fourth quarter at 17-13 and then 24-20. I'm talking about the 2 long touchdowns to Zay Flowers. And then what I think is just an incredibly clutch, amazing throw to Isaiah Likely on the 4th and 7. Likely makes a sick catch, right, to go up high and get it really well done by Lamar and Likely in that moment. I think, possibly could the throw have been slightly lower? Sure, Lamar's trying to get it over top of Highsmith, who's dropping out from a pass rush alignment pre-snap. Lamar only threw, I think, 18 passes, but he went for 238 in the air. Henry also runs for 126, and we put Loop in a position to win it, right, for the game winner. The worst part of it for me is I remember someone posted it on Twitter, seeing the reaction of Lamar on the sideline as the ball is snapped and the kick goes up and then, of course, misses. You see in that moment, you see his face that he wants to win so bad. Watching his reaction was tough. The realization that what he had done, the 2 touchdown passes to Flowers in the fourth quarter, the throw to Likely, the earlier touchdown to Tez Walker to put us up 7-0, it was all for naught. And that really, to me, is who this Ravens team is at this point. Right now, we're one that loses in the big moments despite things that lead up to it. We have all of these things we can point to if Loop makes the kick, if Lamar isn't under so much pressure at various times, if we could actually generate a consistent run game in the second half. The third and fourth quarter, I thought Pittsburgh's defense did a great job. You have to give them credit. In the first half, Henry was oftentimes dominant. But the reality is, here we are now, 8-9. We just missed the playoffs with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield together. Henry obviously operating at a high level still. He finished the regular season, I think it's almost 1,600 yards, or maybe it's just above 1,600, 16 touchdowns. Lamar missed a ton of time because of injuries. The completion percentage obviously fell way down in 2025. I think he's at 63.7, but he still put up 21 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. I think there's a lot of things to talk about for me. The defining play of this season, in my mind, I know it's one of many that people will mention and talk about. It's the first touchdown to Flowers. It's a 3rd and 4, and it puts the Ravens up 17-13 with 8:42 left in the fourth quarter. Things got really crazy there in the fourth quarter, obviously, and credit to Flowers. He worked his way down the middle of the field. He beats Queen. It didn't look like he was matched up in man coverage. It looked like Lamar kind of moved around. Well, he definitely had to move around. He navigated 2 free rushers on the play that were directly at him. Highsmith off the left edge and Benton up the middle. You don't have to think very long to try to figure out where Benton came from. It's exactly where you would expect. He stepped to Falele, and then Benton realized, oh, no one's blocking me. Let me just charge right at Lamar. Lamar, that little step up, man, to split those guys. He knew that it was happening. He recognized it, and it's a great play, don't get me wrong, but from another angle, you can think of it like, well, Lamar has had to navigate that throughout 2025 because there's been so many situations where we're beat so quickly, not just at right guard, but left guard as well. And the find of Flowers up the middle, it's a highlight play for him. But for other players, it would be like one of their top 5 plays of all time. Splitting 2 free rushers, almost as if you're still in high school and you're just playing against guys who don't deserve to be on the field with you. And then throwing the football perfectly to Flowers up the middle into the end zone. I think he catches it just inside the 5. That for Lamar, however, where would you rank it? I mean, it's an unbelievable play. Fantastic physicality and awareness. It's not just the strength to be able to get between those two pass rushers. It's the recognition. Okay, I've got to get started here in this direction now because that's where the opening is. He's an unbelievable athlete. And we have done him a disservice with the offensive line plan, and in not just 2025, but 2024 as well. And to me, the finger or fingers to point as far as blame for that goes directly to John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta. And then to further kind of exacerbate how difficult this season was to watch and frustrating for me, after amazing play by getting the football to Flowers, we give up a quick touchdown. I think 6 plays. It did take like a little under 5 minutes for the Steelers to get it done. It's a 30. It included, I should say, the ensuing drive included a 31-yard catch to Freiermuth on a 3rd and 8 over the middle against the Tampa 2. We have no ability to stop people when they go into a pass-heavy mode. We're awful on 3rd downs. I don't care what the stats or metrics say globally for the course of the season. I do know that the Kyle Hamilton injury was a big deal. We had led 10-0 in the first half. We took a 10-3 lead into halftime after 30 minutes. To that point, Aaron Rodgers had not really been effective. I think at one point in the third quarter, a stat showed on the screen that he was 9 of 15 passing for like 51 yards. And then Pittsburgh scores 23 points in a crazy second half. They answered both of the Flowers touchdowns with their own scoring drives. The first one was capped by a short touchdown run by Kenneth Gainwell on a sweep play. We made him look like a superstar. He's a good player. He's had a great year for them. I know they named him their MVP, so credit to him. He's going to get paid at some point. But you're not talking about a super talented athlete. Out of the backfield, in my opinion, there's 30 or 40 guys more talented than him, but they've certainly got a lot of production. That was on a 3rd and goal, that short touchdown run. Puts them back up 20-17, and we're only talking about, I think, about 4 minutes left. And I think the ensuing play or drive that results in a touchdown for the Ravens, it's only a 3 or maybe 4 play drive, is a brilliant example of play calling by Todd Monken and then execution by Lamar. I'm talking about the 3rd and 1 touchdown pass to Zay Flowers for 64 yards. We had completed a pass to Ricard, I believe, for what looked like a first down, 10 yards, and then they ruled him short. And I think we're talking about 2:30, 2:34 left as we snapped the football after replay assist came in and said Ricard was short. So it's a 3rd and 1. We go unbalanced, and we make it look like we're going to run pin pull pitch. And in fact, off the snap, Lamar opens like he's going to pitch it to Henry, actually gives the fake, and we get Zay running across the field from right to left. He's wide open, right? Collinsworth even started talking about how wide open he was before, as fans watching the TV broadcast, we even realized it. 64-yard score puts us back up by 4 with 2:20 left in the game. I think it's 24-20 in that moment. I thought Lamar was sensational in this fourth quarter after being quite obviously pedestrian early on. He was 5 of 10 passing at one point during the third quarter. Hadn't really got much done. Maybe it was 54 yards passing, and that included the early touchdown to Tez Walker. When we punted the football to them in the third quarter, I'm talking about after the interception that I believe was tipped by Hayward and then intercepted by T.J. Watt. That helped them take a 13-10 lead. We also punted in the third quarter. To that point, I believe Lamar is somewhere around the 5 of 10 or maybe 5 of 11 with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. And then he took off when we needed him most. The offensive line is inconsistent. They have been. You had some egregious stuff from the officials as well. I'll mention 2 of them. Refs didn't cost us this game, obviously. It's right there for the Ravens taking. I'm talking about the penalty on Ronnie Stanley on our final drive. This is after Aaron Rodgers had hit Calvin Austin for the 26-yard touchdown on a 3rd and 10. I kind of can't even believe I'm saying those words because it came against Awuzie, and he's played so well for this defense in 2025. He's been the most consistent corner in terms of coverage, relationship, and awareness throughout the entirety of the season. With a nod to Nate Wiggins as well, but Wiggins played quite poorly last week. I think that's pretty obvious. Awuzie didn't have any of those games. For him, Awuzie to slip and give up that touchdown on a really basic stutter, it was shocking, but credit to Austin, and Aaron Rodgers saw it, turned it into an easy touchdown, right? They go up 26-24 with 55 or 56 seconds left, and then Boswell misses the extra point. That should have been a notification for us that, the Matrix was up to something. But on that drive, the ensuing drive for the Ravens, the penalty on Stanley, they haven't called that all game, number one. Number two, the implementation of those calls, or the decision, I should say, to make those calls seems extremely selective to me based upon the team. Over the past 2 or 3 years, we've seen the right tackle for the Chiefs consistently line up far deeper than Ronnie Stanley was on that snap. Would I like for the refs to call these consistently? Absolutely. Do it all game, no matter who the team is. Stop being selective about it. This one was, again, Steelers are up 26-24. We get the ball back after a huge return by Keaton Mitchell. Gives us the ball, just across midfield, right? We get a short completion to Walker, and then it's 2nd and 4. We motion Andrews across. And it's just very suspicious for me that the catch by Andrews is on a 2nd and 4. It would have given us the ball down at their 40, somewhere in that range, with 43 seconds left. It doesn't matter because 3 snaps later, Lamar makes the unbelievable play to Likely. I'm going to backtrack just for a moment and talk about the 3rd and 7 play where Lamar escapes out of the pocket to the left. There's some pressure. It's a 3rd and 7. Lamar, thought that Hopkins would kind of lead up the sideline. I mean, he's left totally uncovered. And Hopkins, I guess, presumably thought, okay, I'm just going to sit here and get the first down because it's 3rd and 7. And this moment, or what occurs thereafter, is what I want to mention and focus on as far as Lamar Jackson. He just seems like a guy who, like a great NBA scorer, if he's cold, he comes to your city, if he's cold through 3 quarters and isn't getting much done, the opportunity for him to explode in the 4th quarter and score 20 and bring his team back in your gymnasium, in your, again, an NBA analogy here, that fits for the talent level that Lamar has, even on a season that's been inconsistent for him and our offense, primarily because of either A, injuries to Lamar, but a lot of that has been brought on by our offensive line and their inability to protect him, and he fought back after this play. I'm talking about after the incompletion to Hopkins on that 3rd and 7. It's a ridiculous read. Really nice job by Monk in designing it. So Andrews stays into block on our left side, and Likely is on a climb concept from the opposite side, kind of like an over route, if you want to call it. We get the ball down to the Steelers 24. We had struggles often with their pressure. The Steelers did a really nice job stopping the run in the 3rd and 4th quarter, putting us in obvious passing situations, and then being variable with their look. Sometimes it was heavy pressure, right? Sometimes they were bringing 5 or 6 and playing straight man. That was the situation or the dynamic on Tez Walker's touchdown in the 1st quarter. He just burnt Jalen Ramsey. I've never understood the infatuation in 2025 with teams not going after Ramsey down the field. The teams that attacked him did well. I watched Seattle, multiple receivers beat him all over the field in that game, not just JSN, but also Torrey Horton, too, the rookie. That was his first career touchdown. I think we could have maybe taken advantage of that more by going at Jalen Ramsey. But credit to the Steelers, their defense. They changed things up at times. Sometimes they brought heavy pressure, like I said a moment ago, but I remember in at least 2 third downs where Highsmith drops out and Watt and an inside linebacker blitz from the opposite side. It still ends up being man, but the guys who are dropping out, whether it's Highsmith or anyone, they kind of get in the window of some of the underneath routes that we chose. So you have to give credit to the Steelers, I think, for stopping or slowing down the run in the second half and putting us in some of these obvious passing situations and then exploiting our offensive line deficiencies. And I think that's what makes this 4th down throw from Lamar to Likely so amazing and then frustrating with the way the game ended. The season's over with an incompletion. And at the time, or just after the ball was snapped, Watt beats Roger Rosengarten with a topside rush. Falele is obviously holding Queen on a blitz. I mean, you can watch it yourself, and you can see his right arm hooking Queen, who's trying to go through the B-gap. Lamar steps up a little bit to the left, fires it to Likely. A beautiful throw. Slightly high, perhaps, but he's trying to get it over top of Highsmith, again, who's dropping out. Ramsey didn't mistime his jump for an interception. People are like, oh, he mistimed his jump for an interception. No, he didn't. Lamar got the ball there quick enough with the right pace. Slightly high, but Likely made a great catch. We had ran the ball extremely well in the first half, right? Henry opened the game with the 47-yarder, but we still only got 10 points at halftime. That's the duality of this team. It's crazy. This offense, I should say. With no run game to speak of in the fourth quarter, a very inconsistent, porous offensive line. You guys at this point, you know what I think of our offensive line. We go touchdown, both to Flowers, and then Lamar and Isaiah Likely put us in position to win, and we miss a 44-yard field goal. I think Tyler Loop probably makes that kick at that distance consistently. I'm talking about 90% plus. Enough that, as a fan, I like our chances there. It's just a bad miss, and I think he admitted to it. Credit to him that he, stood up in the locker room, talked about his faith, but also the fact that, he just missed it and it was nobody's fault but his. For me, I'm going to focus on Lamar because in that moment, or the fourth quarter, I should say, it should have erased any doubt for who he is, for this team and for this franchise. And in addition, the whole Huntley and Lamar dynamic. I mean, come on. Huntley cannot make the types of plays that Lamar made in this game. And he's really never done so in his career, especially in those high-pressure moments. I also think that this game, the first half versus second half offense, kind of reveals some of the biggest weaknesses in John Harbaugh and his overall plan. And I'm talking about kind of even dating back to after 2023. And what I mean is, and someone actually mentioned this in our Ravens Discord last week, we can't get everyone integrated or involved at the same time. Hopkins goes stretches in games where, he's not targeted at all. Rashad Bateman, of course, only had 19 catches this year. Flowers was a huge player this year. Obviously, he had 2 touchdowns in this game. Mark Andrews at times disappears. Isaiah Likely made a amazing catch on a 4th and 7 after not having an impact for much of the game. We not only have difficulty getting individual players involved, but look at the first half offense. We're able to run the ball well, generally. Can't throw the ball at all, and we only get 10 points out of it. Lamar helps us take off in the fourth quarter. We score twice. Could have obviously won this game with a field goal. We're not a smoothly integrated offense. Todd Monken's the offensive coordinator. Zach Orr's the defensive coordinator. John Harbaugh's the head coach. And John Harbaugh could play a role in some of these things. And in my opinion, if he could have a positive impact on those sides of the ball, then he would. Right now, I don't think he can. Not at that level. Obviously, 1,000 times better coach than I'll ever be. But someone who I think has had a poor overall plan for this team, for this roster. Dating back to 2 seasons ago, 2025 was not fun to watch. There's a part of me, quite frankly, that is glad it's over. We can't stop people on the defensive side, and we know this as fans. Watching the game, we know this. We couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers, and all the veteran receivers he had to throw to. The Hamilton injury had an impact, right, as well as DK Metcalf being out because of the suspension. I've seen the stats as far as Hamilton goes, right? The yards per play when he was on the field versus when he went out. I get it. But I'm not sure that Hamilton being there would have necessarily just solved all the problems. Number one, Rodgers has burned us in 2025. It's what he did in Baltimore 3 or 4 weeks ago when they came there and won a close game that, we all as Ravens fans think that we should have won that one. We're now talking about being swept by a Steelers team that's not incredibly talented on the offensive side. They're smart, they're tough, they're physical. They got their turnover. The interception that led to a field goal helped them take a 13-10 lead. That ultimately ends up being the difference, as well as the missed field goal as well. I will say this about the Steelers matchup next week. They're getting a Texans defense that is a totally different animal than what Baltimore presented over the course of 120 minutes between these two games. Have to give credit to the Steelers for what they do, how they were able to pull this win out. Aaron Rodgers played exceptional in both games. He finished with almost 300 yards passing here and had to throw to guys like MVS, Adam Thielen, and Calvin Austin. Good players. They're in the NFL for a reason. They're making a lot of money. Credit to them. But the reality is, compared to the dozens of other receivers that are out there in the NFL, they're not that talented. They combined for 11 catches and 132 yards last night. Now, it did take 20 targets to get that done. Austin had the game-winning catch. What goes down is the game-winning catch at this point. He's wide open against Awuzie. I'm not sure how we blame Orr or Harbaugh for that specific situation, right? Awuzie planting on I think is just a regular stutter move. I don't think there's anything special about it. People often praise double moves. I just don't get it to me at all. You're looking at the receiver, and to me, you shouldn't be overreacting on a 3rd and 10. So you can't blame Orr and Harbaugh for that our best cover corner over the course of the season has, gave up the touchdown that ends up being, a game winner for Aaron Rodgers. I think the Ravens need a reboot. I've been crystal clear about that since the 1-5 start. Even before that, there were awful losses within the division on the road. It's a pattern. I get it. People will say, well, you're going to lose games against divisional opponents on the road. You shouldn't accept that. If you do, you have a low standard. And in my opinion, our standard for this franchise is far too low. If we want to see John Harbaugh get to run it back with whatever coordinators, coaches, and offensive linemen he chooses, because he's demonstrated to us that he cannot make appropriate professional level choices for the NFL. I'm talking about losing on the road to Jameis Winston and the Browns in 2024. Losing to the same Steelers team with Russell Wilson at quarterback last year. Moving backwards a little bit further, it was a joke, and everyone knew it, to trot out Daniel Falele early in the season in 2024. We saw his preseason film prior to 2024. That was a huge factor in starting out 0-2, those losses to the Chiefs and the Raiders. Those 4 games, that's the difference between hosting a divisional round game with the Bills last year or going on the road. We lack specific game prep in addition to that, and the overall plan offensive line has been horrible, and I've been consistent with that. During the 2024 season, leading up to it, after the preseason debacle, when we saw some of our starters out there get wrecked by, I believe it was the Eagles, Harbaugh stuck with it in 2024 during the offseason, and then 2025. And Lamar Jackson paid a price. Multiple injuries, sacked 36 times this year. And that number was with him not playing a number of games. First of all, in addition, you have the commitment or recommitment to Derrick Henry that started around week 6. I think it was week 6 when we played the Rams, right? And Lamar still gets sacked 36 times. We lose twice to a Steelers team that doesn't have a ton of playmakers, but credit to them. They figured out a way to get it done, even though we're right there to win. It's the final snap of the regular season, drama that the NFL wants. I don't think Ravens fans want this type of drama. Did I expect Luke to miss that kick? No, I did not. but we know what a John Harbaugh team does in the biggest moments. They crack. It could be a Zay Flowers fumble, a drop by Mark Andrews, a fumble by Mark Andrews, a Lamar Jackson interception that's poorly on a poor decision in the fourth quarter. Talking about against the Chiefs, throwing to Isaiah Likely. The missed field goal here by Loop. Go ahead and blame all those individual players. I think the margin for error is made smaller by the decisions that John Harbaugh has made during games, preparing for specific opponents, but even in the offseason. And who knows, man, Steve Bisciotti might do nothing. The Ravens organization moves really, really slow, if at all, in fact. For me, I will tell you, I've seen enough. Harbaugh can't get this done. He can't even get a winning record in a really, really poor season for the AFC North in 2025 when he has Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the backfield. Yes, Lamar was hurt and then limited or operating at less than 100% for much of 2025. And I get it, that might be the impetus and some justification for some of you or even Steve Bisciotti to say, let's run it back. I disagree, and I won't back off that point. Lamar's contract needs a restructuring, or new deal, I guess I should say. And that allows certain things to flow from it. I'm going to give some suggestions, and this will basically form the basis of what I focus on during the offseason. And if you don't like it, then just don't listen to my content. There's plenty of Ravens content creators out there that do a great job and a variety of opinions, so go support someone who you align with. Number one, and this is difficult for me to say, I'm a defensive guy at heart. We have to shift to a more offensive approach in terms of the draft and free agency and the salaries we offer guys. I like Roquan Smith. I like Marlon Humphrey. Obviously, we're all a huge fan of Nnamdi Madubuike, and we hope he's able to return at some point. We have huge contracts assigned to guys that have had difficulties at times, number one, and also, number two, now that we do have Lamar Jackson on a premium contract, it's really going to hamstring this roster. We're certainly going to have to draft guys on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. I think we need to go into a season drafting young defensive guys that are cheap and do so smartly. That kind of leads me to point 1A, which is stop overvaluing certain positions and use the NFL system against itself. And so what I mean by that is there's always going to be veteran outside linebackers, edge defenders that can come in and help. Guys that are professional, they know what to do. Kyle Van Noy, Draymond Jones, Jadeveon Clowney, Justin Houston, JPP, even though we didn't get a ton of sacks from him that year in 2022. These guys are all better than dudes like Adisa Isaac. Even David Ojabo, but of course, we know injury impacted that. I'm going to transition this to inside linebacker as well. We do not need to overdraft inside linebackers like we did this past year with Teddy Buchanan. And even some would say with Trenton Simpson 2 years ago. We can utilize available veterans for cheap in a way that provides a higher floor, in my opinion. Point two, I guess it would be the third one, but we'll call it point two. We have to go heavy on the offensive line this offseason, specifically guard and tackle. I really do not care what the pass rush win rate or pass block win rates say about Ronnie Stanley. We did not get anything close to a Pro Bowl level performance from him in 2025. Number one, our guards are porous. I think we're poorly coached by George Warhop, and he should be gone. At this point, we probably have to bring back Tyler Linderbaum. Personally, I like Tyler Linderbaum. I liked his game coming out of college. I'm glad that we were able to get him in the manner that we did, right? I'm not enthused, though, about having to pay that much for a center given the high-level salaries that we have on the defensive side of the ball. But really, what's the other option, right? The other option is I guess you let him go and you re-sign 77. I would really struggle to provide you with any level of positive analysis this offseason if we chose to dress that clown up again repeatedly and even give him a second contract. That's what that situation ended up being, a clown show. Emory Jones stepped in twice, last night in fact, and played fine. We need more of that. Draft another Emory Jones. Sign a veteran tackle, one who can actually play, not Joe Noteboom. Our approach to offensive line has been a failure for 2 seasons, and I don't think Harbaugh's capable of fixing it. I don't even think he recognizes that he needs to. We drafted defense with 3 of the first 4 picks in the 2005 NFL draft. Obviously, talking about Starks, Green, and then Buchanan, sandwiched around the Emory Jones pick in the 3rd round. We rolled out there with Falele and Macari last season. That wasn't good enough. No one at guard has been good for this franchise dating back to 2023 with Kevin Zeitler. Not Macari, not Voorhees, certainly not Falele, and definitely not John Simpson. Let some other dumb franchise continue to pay those dudes like the Jets did with Simpson and the Jaguars did with Macari. We need to hire an O-line expert. No one inside of this franchise, in my opinion, is going to solidify that position. They don't have the wherewithal to do so, number one. Number two, they may not even recognize that we need to change course abruptly while we still have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson with something left. And I got 2 more points, I guess, here, and then I'll move on. I didn't get the chance to record this reaction video after the game last night, super late night. My family's gone through multiple sicknesses the past 2 weeks with our kids and my wife. So the next point I think some people are going to reject or not enjoy, we have to get rid of Zach Orr. This defense cannot adjust to specific formations or threats. It cannot adjust on an individual play basis or over the course of a game. Somehow we just finished 18th in points per game allowed at 23.4. And look, we played the Browns twice, and we played the Steelers twice. We actually gave up 26 points per game to the Steelers, 26.5 to be precise. So I guess that actually takes our number and increases it, which is, kind of hilarious. We did not play a number of high-profile offenses once we got to a certain point in our season. For us to be where we are defensively, I think is more of a reflection, as low as we are, 18, is more of a reflection on who we played versus the quality of defense that Zach Orr put out there. I like the guy. I hope that in the future he's a great defensive coordinator, and my statements here come back to haunt me because he goes somewhere else and progresses and moves on. I just don't want it to happen in Baltimore. We can't wait another 2 or 3 years for a guy to reach any type of status approaching Mike McDonald. I really shouldn't even mention those guys in the same sentence. We're not even an average defense for 2 years in a row. Under Zach Orr, I've seen enough. Finally, this will be the last one that I'll talk about. I think we have reached a crescendo as far as a fan base, and I'm not going to back off this point. So similar to how consistent and targeted and probably annoying I was talking about the offensive line after 2024, I focused on it after the loss to the Bills. I think my first film study after the Bills loss showed our O-line having extreme difficulty getting things blocked up in the first half. I think Harbaugh mismanaged that position completely, and I think it's a fireable offense. We need an absolute reboot, in my opinion. Not only will Harbaugh make mistakes, everyone does, right? He has shown no ability to adjust or adapt off of it and change course even a few degrees. That, to me, is the offense that puts the nail in this 18 or 19-year run for Harbaugh. I guess it's 18 years. And because I think it trickles down to the other coaches. Now, I guess another way to look at it is maybe he only hires guys who won't adjust or can't. They've got their way, and that's it. Either way, for me, I've seen enough. I am firmly on the side of the fence that says Harbaugh can't get this done, and we need to move on. It's disappointing that we had the answer in the building already, Mike McDonald. And now McDonald in Seattle, yeah, they do have some premium talent there, guys they drafted early, Byron Murphy, Devin Witherspoon, Nick Manwari, and others. They've also had a ton of injuries on the defensive side. And they just kind of plug dudes in, especially in the secondary, and they perform well. That's the same dynamic that occurred in 2022 and 2023. Look at the difference in Baltimore, right? We lose one guy, granted he's a great player, Kyle Hamilton, and we get shredded. It's all boundary side stuff for Aaron Rodgers early, most of the game, in fact. And we're getting beat repeatedly over there by guys who the Steelers didn't even have on the roster to begin the year, right? Adam Thielen, MVS. And then in addition, some dudes they had given up on, or I guess I should say started to phase out. Freiermuth, for whatever reason, they had almost kind of replaced with Darnell Washington, something I cannot understand. I would much rather have Freiermuth on my team. The ability to catch the football and make people miss and get downfield is obvious compared to Darnell Washington. But having said all that, I have less faith in Harbaugh now after watching a rookie kicker miss the field goal, which is, obviously not Harbaugh's fault, but I have less faith in him now than I did when we were 1-5. And at that point, I think I said this in the Discord, but maybe not on a YouTube video, I had already started cutting up and looking at college film because I knew how 2025 was going to end. I didn't know that. I think we were all just waiting on the details that would provide the exclamation point, right? In this case, maybe Harbaugh will be able to survive because it was a kicker, a rookie who badly missed what should have been a makeable field goal, a foregone conclusion, right? That we're going to win the game and we're going to host the Texans next week. I can't help but think that if Steve Bisciotti is silent on this issue, that it's a bad omen that we as fans are going to have to witness more days or more nights like this one. And really all we're going to get to do is just wait for the details that fill in the blanks at the end.